Hi, I'm Michele Saumberfield, and it is a wonderful, relaxing Friday night. So glad to have logged out of work and to be back on my own computer. It's kind of funny because it's like I spend all day long on a computer for work, and then all of a sudden I'm on my home computer. So, yeah. Got to get to the gym and get some exercise in because I'm just sitting around a lot, right? So I figured I would have my own little happy hour. My boyfriend left the house for just a real short period of time because he wants to buy some techno gadget at some store, I guess a computer store, or at some place that sells cell phones or something like that. And God, I'm losing my voice. So I'm having my own happy hours here. And as I was pouring this Bloody Mary, I started thinking, I grew up 15 minutes from a college town. Of course, I was underage for a while. And then I went to college. And then I worked on a college campus for 15 years. And I literally was living 2 blocks away from the campus. So I was literally just within blocks of a ton of bars and a ton of parties. I actually lived right practically up against one fraternity. Of course, by the time you graduate, you don't necessarily want to go back and hang out with college people. Well, actually, I had some college friends, but I mean, you don't want to go, into a frat. Or do you? But anyway, I was just thinking, I don't remember a single time I ever went to a happy hour. I guess there was one time I went with some friends when I was in my early to mid 30s. And this girl was 10 years younger than I was and worked in my office part-time. And she also, gosh, that light over there is so glary. And she also invited me out one time, I remembered. I think that was a Friday night. I don't even remember if I had anything to drink, to tell you the truth. It's kind of crazy, but, I think about MARILYN and how MARILYN, had problems with prescription drugs and drank too much, and about how people took advantage of her, and just the general sense of well-being and the way being on substances isn't a good thing. I always say don't drink and drive. Even if my boyfriend's just taken a medication, I'll say, does it make you drowsy? Are you able to drive? But I think sobriety is a very important thing. And so here I am. I'm having a Bloody Mary. This is only half the can. It's actually a pre-packaged Bloody Mary, and the can is about the size of a large soda can. And this is half of it. I've kind of iced it down a lot. I know I'll really sip on it for probably 3 hours before I even get through this much of it. I may not even drink the second half of it. So I guess what I'm just saying is that one of the messages that I think is important to give, knowing that I was Marilyn Monroe during my past life, is that sobriety is a very important thing. Now, my boyfriend's youngest brother, who's only 1 year older than I am, actually has joined AA, and he's been sober for, I don't know, maybe 8 years, something like that, maybe 10, I'm not even sure. He was getting into all kinds of trouble for public drunkenness before that. As a matter of fact, the first few years I was going out with my boyfriend, his youngest brother was constantly on in-house detention and had something around his ankle and was only allowed out of the house for court dates and one other thing. It was terrible. And then he finally decided to get sober after spending several years in-house detention, because it was one thing after another. It was okay, 6 months now, okay, a year now, okay, a year and a half now. It was crazy. It was absolutely crazy. And So thank God he drinks coffee now and tea now instead of alcohol. So I guess sobriety is a very important thing. It is not overrated. It is not nerdy or stupid to pass up an alcoholic beverage. And like I said, I will be drinking this one probably for the next 3 hours, and I probably, won't even finish the full can. And I'm not going to drive. So I'm going to take a sip, then I'm going to switch screens so I can read a poem by Monica WISHBRIAR and to Friday night. It's so spicy. It's good, but it's like, if I was someone who had a heartburn problem, I would not drink these. Okay. Oh, it's so spicy. It's like so good, but so spicy. I'm going to save that, and I'm going to put some green olives on the bottom. I like olives. I love olives. And I feel like black olives are like a course in and of themselves. I mean, I can literally sit there and eat a bowl of black olives. They're so good. So I am going to, I love this cinnamon. I am going to switch screens, and I'm going to read a poem by Monica WISHBRIAR called Midnight Becoming. Okay, let's see. Midnight Becoming by Monica WISHBRIAR. Deliberate, deep, pounding thoughts, throbbing in my mind, keeping me all flustered, my pelvis ready to grind. This is a wicked fantasy. We meet alone in the dark. You execute every trick in the book to flame my womanly spark. What was that silly thing you said? You told me you like netting? You like the way it feels on legs when you vigorously start petting. I could oblige and wear such things if that would get you going. I do wish that midnight would come, and your coming would become my knowing. In my garter, a cinnamon stick, a gift you sent to woo me. I'll let it lead me on to you, down the path until you do me. Now I do not wish to waste your time. Why pretend that I am coy? You do not have much time to spend in the spiral of my ploys. A guy who is a manly man, a guy who can be hard, you wear your ardor on your sleeve and leave no unplayed card. I know what you have said to me. You know my main intention. I do not plan to play maidenly, nor shy away in your condescension. So here it is, now being said. Listen closely as I attest. I only want to meet you at night, where moonlight illuminates my breasts. You sent to me that cinnamon stick, a spicy gift meant to bind us. So why indeed act surprised in the future, if naked revelry should find us? And to this end I will go forth, and in my days I will aspire, keeping limber in my mind the wish that praise spells fulfilled desire. Okay, well, that was a little glitchy. I actually accidentally clicked the mouse, and I didn't mean to, and it went to the next screen, and then I had to get back. Ugh. So anyway, yeah. So there's a poem for Friday night, and it was called Midnight Becoming by Monica WISHBRIAR. And I think we know what that's about. But anyway, I hope everybody's having a wonderful Friday. And if you watch this video on some other day of the week, well, then of course I hope whatever you're doing, you're having fun. And I think that it's fun to keep a little lust in your being and a little poetry on your lips. I think that poetry is kind of cool. So I always thought of poetry as something that was like really hard to understand and boring and nerdy, and something that would be, I don't know, like something that's 100 years old that nobody really wants to do anymore, I guess, but that's just not true. Poetry is fun. Poetry is expressive. You can, say all kinds of things and say it in just a couple pages. So, I encourage people to write poems and to read poems and to share poems. And I think it's kind of a romantic thing. For a lot of people, you think of poetry as something that some man in bloomers gives to some woman in a long gown and, what is it, pinafores or whatever, and she gets off a carriage and he gets down on his knees and reads some poem, and there's always a bunch of flowers named in it and, that sort of thing. But I think that poetry is great for this day and age too. And I just want to say that a friend of mine told me maybe, I don't know, a few weeks ago, he said, you're a very talented woman. You have to get out from Marilyn's shadow, because I would talk about Marilyn and reincarnation a lot. And he said, you've got to get out from her shadow and fully be you during your current lifetime. And I think that reading poetry is helping me to feel that way more and more. So thank you for listening. If you've listened this far into the video, that was a poem by Monica WISHBRIAR. And I'll just say, have a delightful Friday night. And I'll see you again sometime.